Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 349 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it each and every week. This is a great week. I have a very special guest with me this week, and I am back running. I had an infected tooth, which was very, very painful, so I couldn't run for a couple weeks until I got a root canal. Yes, ouch. Ouch indeed. I had a root canal last week, and I'm finally back running. I got a couple great runs in this week. I was so grateful and happy to be out running, and it was just so fun to do it again. It was like, yes, finally out running. And I'm back. And my tooth is fine. I have the temporary crown in. I'll get the permanent one in a couple weeks. But, oh my goodness, that was so painful. It hurt so bad. But the good news, I lost a couple pounds. But I'll talk more about that after my guest is on here. It is Chris Wehrman. He's been on the show before, and I'll have a link to the past interview that I did with him on the show website, martharunstheworld.com. He is an elite runner. He's a running coach, and he's co-founder of the app RunBetter. And we're going to talk all about that and how you can help yourself with your runs coming up in the fall. There's lots of marathons coming up, and we're going to talk all about it. So without further ado, here is Chris Wehrman. Well, welcome to the show. He's a coach and a runner, Chris Wehrman. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well, and how are you today?
I'm fine, and I forgot to mention that you also are part of the website and app RunBetter. How is everything since we talked last?
Everything is going great. We have the Chicago Marathon coming up here in my city in less than a month, and the weather is cooled, so it's an exciting time where people are feeling excited about the race coming up as we seemingly have beat most of the heat and humidity over the summer training months. And with the race now just a month away, we are close to taper time. So it's really an exciting time, fall here in Chicago, with marathon racing season really starting to heat up.
The weather can definitely change by year for the Chicago Marathon, can't it?
Absolutely. It can in a lot of places, but in Chicago, we've had, I can remember in 2006 when I raced it really at a high level last, and it was snowing. And then the next year was the year when they had the 90-degree heat, where, they were trying to ensure that everybody had enough water. I mean, that was just a 1-year differential. But the last few years, they've had some great weather. We've seen world records on the men's side and the women's side. We've seen American records. And so it seems like we've kind of, and really, I hope not to jinx ourselves, but we seem to have fallen into that more normal fall weather pattern that will hopefully allow for some good, strong racing, and most importantly, athletes to be able to feel good during the duration of the race.
That's great. Yeah, it's nice to have that. We in the West Coast, we get our hot weather right now. So right now through mid-October, it'll be very warm, and then we all of a sudden get into our fall very shortly, and then winter. But so it's warm right now. But yeah, I love the Midwest and the East Coast with fall weather. It's just probably the best time of year for you guys.
Yeah, I love it. But in Chicago, the summer is very enjoyable, except for when you're training. I mean, the heat and humidity this summer, I thought in particular, was a little bit oppressive. We didn't have a lot of really, really hot days, but we just seemed to have high humidity, especially in the mornings. I feel like every morning that I was going out for a run, it was at least in the mid 70s, if not in the 80 or high 80% humidity range. And it can be a little bit daunting. It makes it a little bit harder to recover. But again, that's why this fall weather, the humidity drops, we have cooler mornings, people really start to feel good, and they can then start to feel the accumulation of miles which is a good feeling as you get ready for taper time and ultimately race day.
Yeah, and the beauty of the trees. I mean, the change of the leaves, that's the one of the best parts about autumn, I think. It as far as running through the neighborhoods, you can just see the decorations, the fall decorations, and of course Halloween coming up. I love that time of year.
It is beautiful, and for those that are able to run through the forest preserves or through the suburbs, even on the lakefront paths, you're right. Just seeing the leaves change while they're still on the trees, it's a little sad when they all fall. But the colors this time of year and upcoming are beautiful.
Now, RunBetter, it looks great. I went on the website and just checked it out, and it looks really good. I really enjoy it. What are some of the changes that have happened to the website and the app lately?
Well, for your listeners who have perhaps not used it, myself and some athletes that I coach that are my business partners
Mhm.
have all been training and racing in Chicago, and we would often go and race in other areas. And we had found that it was really challenging to be able to prepare for courses in the West Coast, East Coast. New York City was one of the challenges for me because we couldn't really replicate the hills. We weren't really able to prepare for the ups and the downs, even though mentally we knew what was coming. Even though we could look at the elevation changes on the websites, etc. And we would try to replicate it. What we really needed and what we decided to create is a tool to really prepare for the courses that you are going to be racing on. And so what we've done is we've created this app that you can have on your phone or your iPad or other device that you put on your treadmill. And based on the pace that you're running and the portion of the course that you want to run, the app will tell the user when to increase and decrease their treadmill so that they are running the actual inclines and declines of the race that they are running. And so that's really a tool that we felt would be helpful for athletes that want to know what is coming up and to be able to specifically train for courses without having to travel to the courses themselves. And so we've tried to continue to update the offerings, the courses on the app, provide training solutions and programs through the website to ensure that athletes are as prepared as possible for the races. Because as you know, as a runner, and as I know as a runner and a coach, the more prepared you are, the more successful you will be. Maybe with time, maybe with finish, but certainly mentally to be able to get through the race.
Mhm. Sure, of course. Now, is it did I understand this that you can also register for races through RunBetter?
There are some races that you are able to. We have partnered with some races so that you can get directly to their websites. They are supporting our app, and we really want to be a tool not only for athletes but also for races. I believe that races recognize that prepared athletes come out of races feeling good about themselves and their performance, and if they feel good about themselves and their performance, then they will then really advertise for the race themselves and they'll want to come back. So it really is a community focused app. While we're working, to try to help athletes be the most prepared, we recognize that it helps everybody from race directors all the way down to athletes, even family members, because if you're an athlete and you come home unhappy after a race, it affects a lot of people, even if you're trying to put on a happy face. And so think about that, all family members out there. Having your athlete have a successful race will make it easier for everybody.
That's true. That's true. What would you like to see in the future for RunBetter?
Well, I'd really like for us to continue to be able to partner with races and to continue really to grow our presence among the running community. I mean, I recognize and we recognize that running on treadmills is not necessarily the most preferred form of training for most people. I love to be outdoors. Living in Chicago, I love being out in the cold when it's 20 and we're on a lakefront and it's snow and the wind's in my face. I mean, that's part of being alive for me. But that being said, recognizing that part of the training requires the ability to prepare for a course is important. And so for athletes, I want them to understand that what we're not suggesting is that everybody run on a treadmill every single time that they run. But really, this is just one of the tools to help them prepare for whatever they're training for. Just like getting on the track, even for a marathoner, may be a tool. You're not getting on the track every day, but getting on the track once a week or once every other week to help maximize your performance.
Mhm.
I also believe that it is a great way for people that may need to do some of their runs at home because of weather or family obligations or on the road to just have an opportunity to mix up their runs. Getting on a treadmill and just running aimlessly, I find to be a little bit boring. At least with the app, we've provided an opportunity for people to have the ability to focus on what's coming up. We show the inclines and the declines so you can try to visualize what it's like when you're on a run, just like you do outside. And so it's really just a tool for people to use to help maximize their training at whatever level that they are at. And I would certainly encourage your listeners to give it a shot and see if that can help them prepare for races, but also get through those difficult treadmill days with just a little bit more enjoyment.
Yeah, I understand that. Um, Now, what are some of the ways? How are some of the ways that run better coaches can help runners?
Well, one of the things that we do is we focus, certainly with our training plans, on the types of race courses that people are going to be running on. Um, as you know, going into a race, you have to have a race plan, and that race plan is dependent on a number of factors. Fitness is, of course, one of them. The weather is a major factor, but also the race course itself. It is different racing a race for a PR or for a medal or even just to beat a buddy of yours, a training buddy, if it's a flat course versus a hilly course. It's dependent also on your strengths and weaknesses on those courses. And so the training program and the coaches try to help identify the strengths and weaknesses of each athlete and then have programs in place to try to help maximize the outcome on those courses. If you're going to run New York City, which I had commented is my albatross. Both times I've run in New York, I struggled with the hills
Mm,
because I'm not them. But how do you prepare for that? You don't run flat all the time. You've got to run the hills, the uphills and the downhills. Boston is similar, and there's many other
mhm,
courses that being able to prepare for that type of course with both flat land fast running as well as some strength running on the hills is the best way to maximize the outcome. And that's what we're working to help athletes do.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are some of the goals that you find runners asking from Run Better for?
Well, preparation is big. Being able to appreciate and understand what is forthcoming in a race, and so being able to focus on some of the specific challenges of races. You know, one of the ones that I think everybody knows about, everybody hears about Heartbreak Hill in Boston,
Mhm,
and having run Boston and having coached athletes in Boston, I have found that for my athletes that are strong, Heartbreak Hill in and of itself is not that challenging. It's not that deep into the race, but it is still a surprise. And what I have found with heartbreak in particular is that athletes that have been able to practice running on it have found that the fear of Heartbreak Hill is really more daunting than the actual hill itself. And so being able to align with some of these courses and run some of the challenging parts and being prepared for it mentally and really emotionally to be able to overcome the fear has been, I think, a major benefit for athletes that really want to be able to feel good going into the race and then feel really good coming out of it.
that makes a lot of sense. Um, Now, how long is a typical training block that you give your runners?
I've always been a believer as a coach and as an athlete in 7 day training blocks. And the reason is because for most of us, family and employment requirements, the weekends are the best times for us to be able to run our long
Right.
runs. Before I had kids, I was able to get up on a Friday morning and run 20 miles before I would go to work. But the reality is, getting kids up the door and to school, making lunches, that's impossible. So I have found experimenting with different ways to do it that a 7 day block makes the most sense with having that weekend long run, and then finding a day or two to have a combination of a speed run, usually fartleks, and some sort of a tempo run, or some sort of a strength run,
Mhm.
as the ideal way to prepare for a maximized performance in a race, whether it's a 5K all the way to the marathon,
Mhm.
or even more. I think the longer the race, the less you need to have some of those speed runs. But maximizing efficiency is very important. So that's how we schedule our training blocks to help athletes progress to whatever marathon it is that they are,
Mhm.
or shorter races. It's not limited only to the marathon.
Do you have any plans to expand the site to help runners who don't have treadmills, or just going to be specific to treadmills?
It is not specific to treadmills. What we do, however, is for the training plans that I have written, um, the workouts and sometimes some of the runs
Mhm.
have components for specific segments of marathon courses or
Mhm.
others that are on the app. But it is not a requirement for
Mhm.
all to be on
Mhm.
melt. And in fact, I do not encourage it. I do encourage people to go outside to
Mhm.
literally smell the roses or the trees and get the.
Mhm.
But for certain courses and for certain training plans, we do identify specific segments where we encourage them to run on certain hills or portions of other courses, but it is not a requirement. And it is only a suggestion because I do think it is helpful, but it is not the only way to train. And so they could take a tempo run, for example, where we identify an 8 mile segment on one course, and they could do it at their house, or on the Chicago lakefront, or through Central Park if they so chose. But for those people that really want to hit certain courses or focus on certain types of courses, that's where using the treadmill is very helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, I say that because a lot of ultra runners or trail runners who might be interested, they are allergic to treadmills, so they would never go near one. I don't know if you've ever seen that cartoon where the guy is on a regular treadmill and he sees the guy next to him with on a treadmill, there's rocks and dirt and trees on little things, and he says, "Oh, that's a trail treadmill,"
Yeah,
trail running treadmill. So, I think that's about the only kind a lot of trail runners would ever go on. But,
I don't totally blame them, but there is certainly, I think, a benefit to occasionally, with
right,
course specific training, to get on one. At least I would suggest somebody try it and
yeah.
at least not automatically wash their hands of it. But I agree with you and I hear you, and that can certainly be some of the challenges. And perhaps sprinkling some dirt around the treadmill to make it feel like you're outside isn't a bad trick yourself.
Well, especially, like, after work. I don't, belong to a gym anymore, but when I did, I would go after work, and I work in a urgent care, and it's a couple of days a week, it's 12 hours, so I go at 8 p.m. is definitely way too late at night to go out in the street to run. I mean, it's just not safe, so I go to the gym and get, like, 3 miles in after work, and then that would be fine for 1, and the rest of the time I'd go, on the street during the day, but in some places, you just can't go out in the street and run. You can't go out at night in a city and run. It's just not safe anymore.
Well, unfortunately, that is true,
Mm,
and I certainly try to have as many runs as possible with people I know.
mm,
Fortunately, I find that when I'm running at 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning, it's usually a little bit quieter, and so. But you always have to be aware of your surroundings and you have to be safe. And for for most runners, and I'm sure all the runners that are listening to you, it's an addiction. I mean, this is our vice. We like to be out. We like to be running. We like to get that heart rate up. We like the soreness and to a in a twisted way, the dehydration and the soreness, like that's what we live off of. And so finding ways to be able to run and finding ways to make the run meaningful is important to us.
I like to consider it a lifestyle.
It's very special.
There you
Only some of us can understand.
there you go. Yeah, exactly. So, can you finish this sentence for me? "I wish runners would stop."
I wish runners would stop complaining about opportunities lost. Uh,
Mm,
as a coach and as an athlete, and I've done this myself for sure, is that we get caught up on the achievements that we have been unable to accomplish. And therefore, oftentimes, we will miss the opportunities that are right before us. One of the examples I give to people is that I thought in high school I was going to be a basketball player. And I had my whole high school and college and then professional basketball career planned out. And I didn't make the freshman basketball team, so I swam. And to get in shape for swimming, I started running cross country. And after a couple of years of cross country, I ended up being a state qualifier. And then I ran at Michigan State University. And then I was a multi-time Olympic trials marathon qualifier. And now here I am working with the Chicago Marathon and coaching other athletes. If I was so focused on basketball that I would have not seen these other opportunities, I would not be here today. Now, that's a much bigger way to look at it, but even little things. We need to, as athletes, I think, focus on other opportunities. And that's not to say we can't be disappointed with opportunities lost, but that also means we can't foreclose opportunities that are available.
Boy, that is so true. And I think that brings up a really good point in that when they focus on opportunities lost, they kind of downplay what they've done. I mean, they may have done some like Western States. Okay, Western States is like the biggest race in ultra running. It's like if you have to qualify. There's certain qualify 100 milers that you have to run to get into Western States. If you run one of the 100 milers to get in, you have 2% of getting into Western States. So you probably won't get in. So even if you run 3 or 4 100 milers, you may still not get in. And then they are disappointed, but they downplay what they've done. This runner may have run these 3 amazing, really tough 100 milers, but it seems to be no big deal to them because they didn't get into Western States. Well, I think that's a really backwards way of looking at it personally.
It's tough, and it's a balancing act because it is, I think, part of our fabric as most runners is type A to have these lofty goals and to always be going after these goals, which is a great thing. But you are absolutely right that sometimes we forget the journey and the accomplishment that we have achieved through that process as well. And we can have both. We can enjoy where we've come from and the things that we have done, and we can be focused on the next step and the next goal. But we can't forget one in lieu of the other.
Right, right. And Boston is the same way. They've made different new requirements now. I see where they made different requirements for downhill marathons. So all those downhill marathons that they made to give you a better qualifying time, that doesn't matter anymore. They took that away. So, it's like, well, still you got this great time, but it's not fast enough. But still a great time. So don't take that away from yourself.
Still a great time, still had a training cycle that you were successful in,
Mhm.
still raced and completed a marathon or an ultra. I mean, these are still great accomplishments, and we should not lose sight of the accomplishments that we are achieving, especially because these are physically, mentally, and emotionally demanding things that we have done. And to overcome the challenges in and of itself is very powerful.
It's true. It's very true. Okay, on race day, what are some of the most important things a runner should remember?
Well, certainly for endurance athletes, nutrition and hydration are so important. And I think a lot of athletes uh, fail to really take that into account as they are preparing for their races. Not necessarily not doing it, but not really coming up with a race plan that will include ensuring that their bodies are fueled. And especially, I find that a lot of athletes miss the mark on hydration. Especially as we were talking about earlier, as the weather changes, as it cools, people are training in the heat and humidity this summer, and they're consuming a lot of water and Gatorade and electrolytes. And then when the weather gets cooler, they don't think that they need it because the weather is more cooperative. But really, as part of the race plan, they have to plan on and ultimately get through using the the fluids that are on the course to be able to ensure that their bodies are in a good place to be able to maximize their performance. And the same is similar with the nutrition. I think most people during the course of a training cycle figure out what type of food is good for them or not, sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose. But it is important then to put that as part of your race plan and then continue to do whatever it is that you've been doing and follow through with that race plan, because making those changes at the last minute or thinking you don't need to do it, it can be sometimes fatal to the ultimate outcome of the race.
That's very true, exactly, and you have to practice that over and over again and try different things over and over again. It takes a long time to figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Yes, it does. And that's really why having a training cycle and practicing these things are important. Instead of getting focused on one particular long run, use each long run or each workout as a data point on what works best for you and what makes you feel best, so that when you get to race day, that you are ready with that knowledge to be able to follow your race plan because you've already practiced it and you've made those adjustments during the training cycle.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Now, how long should a runner be running before attempting a marathon? I see a lot of runners trying to do them too soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's tough because every person is different in their abilities, in their background, in their mentality. I think when you start talking about marathons and you talk about ultra marathons, it's not just what is your physical ability, but what is your mental ability. And for most runners, we have the ability to really push through some very uncomfortable situations, certainly while we are running. And for new runners, part of the question is, do you have the ability to do that? And if you do have the ability to do that, is that actually a good thing? Right? If you are one who has never run before and you have the mentality of being able to run through a brick wall, well, that doesn't mean you should just go out and run 20 miles right off the cuff just because you've done it. I mean, you still have to build up. For me, even the athletes that I coach with an 18-week training program to get to the marathon, we've already started running base runs beforehand so that we can build those miles. The accumulation of miles is so important to help efficiency, to figure out what type of shoes that you like. Is it better to run in the morning or the evening? Are you somebody that can run 6 or 7 days of low miles? Is it better to be 3 days of higher miles? And so it's not just about a specific amount of time that's important, but it's really giving yourself the opportunity to figure out what's best for your body. And that may take 8 to 12 months before you even start talking about training specifically for any race to really kind of figure out what's best for you. So I agree. I think people sometimes jump into it too quick. They're 49 years old and they want to get their bucket list marathon by the time they're 50. Are they really setting themselves up for success by rushing into it? Perhaps not. Maybe the goal is to train in your 50th year,
Mhm.
to run it before you're 51, but give yourself the opportunity to get your body and your mind on really the right path to having a successful race day.
Now, you've traveled a lot with your running. Do you have any travel tips to give to runners when they travel to races?
Yes, and the one that sticks out to me probably the most is I had run a race in Japan after having a successful Boston marathon back in 2002. I was the American representative to run the Omi Ochi 30K, which was phenomenal. And I loved the people and I loved the race. But it was a long flight. And when I got over there and did my first run, just as a light run, my body was so off. And it was off for a couple of days. Luckily, I had gotten out there about 4 days before the race. So what I encourage all of my athletes is to get to whatever destination as early as you are able to do, and try to continue to maintain the type of training schedule that you had during your buildup for whatever race. Because if you start to make changes on top of the travel, on top of the jet lag, on top of being in, a different hotel with different food and you're walking around, you're really starting to set yourself up for failure, as opposed to all the success that you've set yourself up for prior to that. So I think it's very important to just like having a specific game plan for race day is having a specific game plan for the lead up to the race after you travel. And that definitely includes making sure that you are still eating appropriately and consistently, and also getting in some of those runs to make sure that your body maintains that consistency as well.
Planning is everything.
Planning is key. And um, every, whether it's the coach or the athlete, there should be a plan for each week. There should be a plan for the month. There should be a plan for the training cycle. Doesn't mean that it can't be altered. And in fact,
Mhm.
it probably should, but there should be a plan. My college coach, who I respected immensely because he had kind of found me and developed me, would sometimes ask when I wanted to do a run, well, what's the purpose of the run? Am I going out for a run just so that I can mark it in Strava, or am I going out because it's going to help me be a better athlete? Really identifying the purpose is helpful,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, if the goal is to run 365 days a year,
Mhm.
then you've got to get in that run when it's raining out or it's cold or you feel sick. If your goal is to maximize performance at Western States, if you've qualified for it, then if you're sick, then it may be taking the day off to allow your body to recover. So having an overall plan that you can adjust, but recognizing what the goal is very important.
That's really good advice. Thank you very much. I know that's gonna be very helpful. So how's your running these days? What are you up to? Just running for
Well,
fun?
I still run. I run, not as much as I used to, but I try to still run 40 to 45 miles a week. I've got three.
Cool.
They all play hockey for different organizations. We travel a lot. I am still doing some coaching. I'm working with the marathon. And of course, I have my law practice. So when you add it all up, time is uh, difficult to find. I still try to get up most mornings and get a run in. I did a track workout with my brother for his birthday a couple of weeks ago. That was a little bit jarring, but it was a little bit fun to get out there. For me, it's a way to be able to clear my mind, and to feel good and to start the day off literally on the right foot, but also proverbially on the left foot. And I enjoy being able to continue to do that and try to make that a focus for still the majority of days during the week.
Very cool. So are any of your kids goalies?
Yes, as a
Oh
matter
my
of fact,
goodness. So
my
you don't
daughter,
have so you don't have any money left?
uh, no, but my wife and I talk about it often. This is what we work for, to give our opportunities to experience life in ways that maybe they wouldn't otherwise be able to. So I'm glad to give those opportunities to my kids.
Well, good for your daughter, though. That's awesome. Good for her.
Yeah, she's phenomenal, and all my kids are, and I enjoy watching them all compete. I love watching them as teammates and as athletes to their coaches. And what I'm most glad about, and it's not just about them being athletes,
Yeah.
is they have found something that they enjoy outside of school that perhaps identifies, gives them some self-identification, but just gives them some focus. And I think that that's important for people, whether it's art or music or sports. Just have something, because you and I identify as runners. I mean, I'm a runner, and I'll be a runner forever, even if I'm not running. And I think that that's important, to be more than just a husband or a father or a lawyer or an employee or whatever. Right? I mean, it's that self identification that makes me feel good about myself.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We'll definitely have a link for the website and for you on martharunstheworld.com, and I truly appreciate it. I'm really happy to hear that RunBetter is doing great. It's really terrific app and a terrific website, and you all need to be familiar with it. And I wish you the very best, Chris, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Martha. I appreciate it very much.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris, very, very much. That was Chris Wehrman of RunBetter, and I wish you all the best of luck. Check it out. I will have a link with all of Chris's information on the website, martharunstheworld.com. Well, as I said in the beginning of the show, I had a root canal last week for an abscessed tooth. That was not fun at all. I had 2 weeks of pain. Oh my goodness. Tooth pain is no fun. Absolutely no fun. And I was so happy to get it done. I didn't mind all the drilling and all that fun stuff at the dentist's office. Actually, I have a really good dentist, so I'm not going to complain about that at all. I love my dentist, and dentists rock. They keep us going. They're absolutely wonderful. I love them. Better than the alternative that it used to be in the olden days, right? Well, anyway, finally this weekend I got a couple good runs in and it felt just great to be out there. I was so happy to be out running again. Especially yesterday, I went to the Presidio and got a really good trail run in, got 5 miles in. It was so fun. I actually went a mile and a half without stopping, and that was really good. And oh, my quads were burning up after I was done. But boy, it was really fun. Just so, so fun. And yeah, I'm getting back into it. Even though I had 2 weeks off, it felt really good. It was funny because I ran Saturday, and Saturday was hard just getting into it, but then yesterday wasn't quite as hard, and it said, "Okay, I haven't lost all my fitness, so that's good." But I'll be working much more on it as we get into October. I have the only race I'm signed up to do is the 5-mile turkey trot on Thanksgiving, and that I really want to do the 5-mile distance. I've only been doing the 5K Pilgrim's Promenade, which isn't timed, and I want to do the 5-mile this year, so I'm focusing all my energy on that. After that, next year, I wanna do the Ruth Anderson 50K again next year in October, but I'm not doing it this year, but I would like to do it next year, so we'll see. Anyway, so that is it for today, and I thank you so much for joining me. Everything is on the website, martharunstheworld.com. All of Chris's information is on there, and if you want to email me, you can email me at martharunstheworld@gmail.com. That is it for everything. And if you want to like my Facebook page, I will have a link on that as well. And on that note, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.